Hey, everybody. I'm Laura. You're about to watch episode number 29 of Project Kids with myself and Michael Wan. It was kind of an interesting one. We went all over the place. A mishmash of topics, some of which we planned to talk about, some of which just came up. I think we were both in a little bit different of a headspace, mine a headache and his something else than usual. But anyway, hope you enjoy it. But during the episode, you'll hear Michael refer to this birthday gift that he got me and that he wants me to do an unboxing video. And as soon as we were done recording the show, the notification came that I had a package and I went downstairs. And so package from Michael is here. And therefore I am including the unboxing video as part of the episode. So let's see what we got here. Let's see. Drum roll. White tissue paper. Let's see. Oh, look at this. All right, so there's a nice little leather pouch with a little leather tag that says Fig Leather Goods and a little note that says vegetable tanned, buffalo hand stitched with waxed linen thread and copper hardware. I'm opening it up, and inside there is a Susquehanna Alchemy sticker and a bracelet. Look at that.
Nobody can see it. You have to show it.
I think actually it goes with I like very simple sort of like pounded or pressed metal jewelry. So this actually goes perfectly with my right hand effect. And I love the little leather pouches. And I know Michael loves little leather pouches. He often makes them, but this is really adorable. And I like its the copper bracelet is also hand hammered. That is my favorite. Like my little ring that I wear on this finger is a hand hammered, piece of metal and whatnot. So I think it's perfect. I think he was right.
You knocked it out of the park.
You knocked it out of the park, Michael.
Good job, you.
And now enjoy the show. See you next time.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Emily Moyer. My good buddy, Michael Wan, is here with me. This is episode number 29 of Project Kids. Good morning. It's Tuesday morning. How you doing, Michael? You got your Paul Stamets on today.
Good morning, Emily. This is our first time that we've got to record since your birthday celebration.
Yes.
And I am happy to mark this late. What episode are we of the?
We're on 29, so we're about to leave the 20s here. We're in our
we're about to leave the 20s, and we're also like so it's got the birthday, it's got all that sort of stuff. So I'm really excited is for you to receive the present, which I put in the mail because I forgot your birthday to contact you on the day of your birthday. So I'm still harboring a little bit of that because I want to recognize you because you recognize so many other people. And so because of that, I'm still carrying your birthday energy with me. So I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to see where our show goes today.
Yeah, this was like maybe, I don't know if I would say this is the longest birthday celebration I've ever had, but it was it's because I like you were originally going to be here last weekend. You weren't, but I did.
Was that last weekend? That seems like last decade.
Right. And so from last Sunday, like I took, there was people and I took them on a walk and whatever. And then, I worked on Monday and Tuesday. And then we took a couple of days off for my birthday. And then it was a holiday weekend. And we've just been kind of relaxing. And there was all these crazy things that like lined up in terms of like, it was my 47th birthday, all these numerical 47s in terms of last week's Glass Speed game and all of these different stuff sort of lined up. And it was like, there was some crazy astrological things going on right on my birthday, right? That like all the YouTube astrologist people were like, oh, the 29th is a crazy day, whatever, right? And I felt it like I definitely, like there was an intensity of feeling around the entire week, wouldn't you say, Laura? That was like it the universe was definitely celebrating something happening, right?
It was celebrating something.
So it was, you know, an interesting week. And then of course, in the background of all of that, you know, it's my favorite 2 weeks of the year, always Wimbledon. Those are always my favorite.
All right.
And Wimbledon is going on right now. I particularly like grass court tennis, and the grass season is much shorter than the clay or the hard court seasons. So it's like short and fast and hard. And there's something, I don't know, like, even though there's so much of me that despises a lot of the kind of pomp and circumstance of Wimbledon, the actual way the game is played there and the kind of like excitement that style of play generates is my favorite. And generally, oftentimes some of the players that are my favorites, like grass is either their best surface or the one that they have learned to conquer over the course of their career because it's so challenging. So I've been enjoying Wimbledon and also just noticing that there's something very big and symbolic happening at Wimbledon this year that is different in some ways than other, right? Like the tennis has been good. It's been interesting. There's been a lot of upsets. There's been a lot of different things going on. But I actually think like until we, you know, we're getting into the brass tacks right now, right? We're in the quarterfinals started today. But until we, you know, settle history next weekend, we won't know how important the tennis has been here. But there have been a lot of sort of marking points during this Wimbledon, and then also breaking of traditions. And also,
when did Wimbledon begin?
Let's check.
Like the tournament, this like what day?
I know that just this Sunday was the celebration of 100 years of center court. They had
no, I meant like this year's, like what was the date of this year, like the first match?
Oh, it started on the 27th.
So 2 days before your birthday?
Yes.
And what day of the week is that?
Monday.
That's on a Monday. Okay. And so now we are how many days into the tournament?
So this is the Monday.
We're day 8.
So we're on day 8. We're on day 8.
Day 9. Okay.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Day 9. And so there's a lot going on. There's been a lot of breaking of tradition and a lot of like revealing, in my opinion, of some realities that have been going on there for a long time that probably have gone unnoticed in a lot of ways by a lot of people. And then also some very interesting sort of conversations like in the background that aren't really getting, in my opinion, the level of attention that they should based on like, what the fuck did you just say kind of stuff, right? So I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about that. And so, and as we're playing right now, Novak Djokovic and Jannik Sinner are playing on center court. And the interesting last name, Sinner, right? But he is up 2 sets to love on Djokovic. Now, Djokovic has a break in the third set. But, you know, just 2 hours ago, Novak Djokovic was, you know, thought to be unbeatable on grass, right? And so there's interesting things going on here. You know,
so before we dive in deep into that, and that's where I think we're going to go, I want to go and put into context for all the people who are listening at home. Like this is how this is the level of integration with sports that this game which you and I are playing goes. So can I tell you this real quick and then we'll go and this is for context. Okay. Yeah. So if we go back in time, what I guess was last week, I was going to go to Austin to visit you and during your birthday and all that sort of thing, and that kind of fell apart. So, all right, that's the context. And now I'm here in Pennsylvania. I'm staying in this place called Nome Countryside, and I've been talking about it. And there's an Airbnb in the basement, and so there are people who've been coming through that for a variety of reasons for as long as there's been an Airbnb here. But because I've been talking about it on different platforms, people who became aware of it through me. And so I got an email last week from some dude. He's like, hey, me and my wife, we're going to be coming up through town or coming up to Pennsylvania. And we booked a night to stay at Nome Countryside. I don't know if you're around, but maybe, we could, it would be cool if we could hang out. I was like, all right. I mean, it's, typically I usually like to do things with a little bit more formality around it, but I was like, well, I've been talking about this. This is the first guy who's like, kind of like how this unfolded. So I'm like, I'm very willing to kind of go meet, but then at the same time, this isn't exactly how I like to schedule things, but nonetheless, so a whole bunch of weird stuff happened the day before. And then this guy and his wife, they show up, and I go down in one of the trails to go and look for them because Mr. Rich had told me that they had already arrived. Actually, I wasn't sleeping here that night. They came that night. I came first thing the next morning. So I start walking around, and then I see them come up the trail. And the first thing I noticed were on the dude, he had like quadriceps. His thighs were the biggest things I've ever seen. And that was the first thing that came out of my mouth. I kind of made a joke of it. Like, obviously, like this guy, like, lifts a lot of weights. You don't like have legs like that. So it's like, I kind of like,
tree trunks.
But like chiseled out of marble. And so he comes up and we talk and whatever. Like, I don't really know this guy besides his email. And he sent me like, so I talked to him and his wife. And then it turns out that they're both former US Olympic bobsled team members. Like, they're Olympic athletes. They're Olympic athletes who are here. And so I'm like, okay, that's kind of, and we're talking at this point, like, we're starting to know each other. And there's a real kind of like natural chemistry between the three of us. I mean, I guess they're familiar. I'm pretty certain they listen to you and me too. So they're probably listening to this as well. So like, they obviously like resonate with what you and I talk about, but it went both ways. Like, and so we had this kind of, we had this chemistry there. And then it's my other friend, Paul Wall. I think you met Paul Wall. He's been on the show before. He and I were planning on going to this. I saw a flyer for this Amish. They called it a barn sale. And I say to Austin and Brianna, that's her name. I'm like, we're going to go to this kind of like barn sale. Do you want to come with us? They're like, yeah, definitely. What else are we going to be doing here? So we all get in the car and we go to this trip. And what's funny is, I don't know if we were talking about this before we started recording or if this is part of the show, but I had purchased you a birthday gift after I already missed your birthday, and we go to this like Amish barn sale, and this is where I found your present. So this is all kind of related to it, but I want to go and show you. Let's go right here. So this is who came. So can you see this?
Yeah.
So we got Austin Landis.
Yeah.
So the first thing which is jumping out is like, oh, the dude's name is Austin, right? Yeah. And we just like missed the whole sort of Austin event. And then here is his bride. I think like these are screenshots from like the US Olympic website, Team USA. So that's where I got these images.
Her birthday is the same as my sister's, July 2nd.
But here's the thing, which is even weirder. Oh, so this is what was strange, Emily, was I was saying to you that I thought your birthday was July 1st, and that's right. Not on. So she told me, I met them on July 1st. They're like, it's my birthday. And this says date of birth is July 2nd. I'm like, well, that's kind of strange. Like, regardless, maybe it was the 2nd, but I'm pretty certain it was July 1st. But all of these like weird things, we've got Austin, we've got the birthday of her. So, okay. So this right here, this was the flyer I saw, and it's at BB's Amish Discount Grocery.
Oh my God, I love that sign. It looks like it's like from the 60s or the 70s or something like that.
Exactly. That's why, how could I not go? This is what it says. It says, multiple vendors, find everything for everyone. Barns are getting their yearly purged and things are priced to sell. Vintage household clothing, you name it, we probably have it. If interested, setting up, like, you look at this, you're like, wow, this is where I want to go. It's the Blue Gate Pickens annual yard sale. July, yes. So it was July 1st. We went the first day. It was definitely July 1st when we went there. So I was like, let's go to this thing. And we get there, and it didn't quite live up to the expectation of what I painted in my mind. In my mind, I'm picturing like this is going to be like the find of finds for like, it'd be like yard sales. Like it's gonna be Amish and it's their annual and all these different folks. Nothing like that at all. But it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's out in the middle of nowhere. And when we walked in, the lady who runs it, she's like, "How did you find out about us?" And I got the impression that only like people in the local area, it was about a 20-minute ride from where we are in Nome countryside, like only her immediate neighbors come. And what it is primarily an antique shop, which is a nice antique shop. And then there was a tent out front, which was kind of yard saley, but it was whatever. So we go into the place and we're all like having a fun time. So we're just, well, let's run with this. Let's see what we got here. We're going to enjoy ourselves no matter what. And it was in the antique shop. And I'll wait till you get your present. I won't tell you anymore. That's where I found, I'm looking at everything. I'm just like, I like to go to antique shops, but I usually don't buy anything. I saw what I think may be the most perfect gift I could get you, Emily. We'll discuss that once you see it and open it. But then we went outside and we went to the tented area, which I walked through it real quickly, and I wasn't impressed. And so I'm already thinking about lunch. I'm like, all right, we need to go get some food. And then they call me over. And remember, they've been married for less than a year. So I still consider this like honeymoons, their honeymoon year. And they're up here and they're just the sweetest couple. And they go and they find something. What they find there, this is them. You can see them right here.
Yeah.
And they find this winter wonderland bobsled ride for Mr. Christmas. And so like their first Christmas now, like, this is going to be, this part of their tradition going forward. And so here, this is me with them. So I share this, and I said I want to bring into like the reality of like athletics and sports and world class or elite class athletes, because like this really happened. Like, Olympic athletes show up here and it's so integrated with like bobsleds. And like we all, if you've seen like Cool Runnings, like we all have a picture in our mind of like what like we have an insight collectively of what that may be like. And then to have this unfold and then on your birthday and then with the name Austin, and it was just like a wonderful time.
Birthday is the same as my sister's.
All of that. And so I want to go and say, like, this is, to me, this is just one side of the same die that you're talking about when we're talking about Wimbledon, like of this idea of like, there's something with athletics and on a certain level, which we're kind of tapped into. So when we go and we're having this conversation, like this is immensely, like it bleeds through glass bead game wise, like in a very, very tangible way.
Yeah, I mean, you were sending me texts and stuff while all this was going on. And I'm glad you mentioned Cool Runnings, because the first thing that whenever anyone says bobsled, anybody's immediate first thought is the Jamaican bobsled team, right? She looks a lot like Sonia, who's Jamaican. So right? Like which is interesting. Like she looks pretty, pretty, I don't know how tall, getting the things that she's 5'7", so she's taller than Sonia, right? But like she definitely looks a lot like Sonia, right? Sonia is Jamaican. So my first question was like, was she on Jamaican? I was just joking, right? But I would be curious to know the history of bobsledding. Like where did this start and why? Right. Remember, like early on when we first started, somebody was sending us communications explaining about how like ski resorts are used. Like there's like an energetic thing, like with the skis and the ice, and there's stuff underneath the mountain, obviously these right kind of thing. And somebody brought to my attention that like almost every ski resort in the United States is like owned by the same few corporations and blah, 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 blah. So bobsledding also, would fall under some of that, but like, what is the history? What is the purpose? Like, was it just something people did for fun, or was there like a more utilitarian reason for it? Is there an esoteric reason for it? and whatnot. It's a sport that I know very little about, right? Like I've seen Cool Runnings and I've watched it a few times in the Winter Olympics, and that's about all that I know. My question would be like, two people who were high level bobsledders, like what are they doing with their life now? Are they still bobsledding? Do they still compete, or do they have like?
We talked about that the whole time. I was like asking all of those, like it was fascinating from so many different levels. Like you and I have a natural curiosity. I think just in terms of like sports and like the lifestyle and the Olympics. So I asked him all those questions. I want to say that that they weren't at the most recent Winter Games, but probably the one before. And so first, like asking, like I was fascinated about what that culture was like to be in, like the training and all of that. But what's interesting is they both are in like business, the technology world right now, and we're talking about what they saw as their exit strategy from that, like figuring out what they want the next part of their life to look like. And Brianna is specific, like she's doing something specifically with like hair, specifically with like the like that's where she's putting her energy and her attention into new ways in which like I guess which deals with the care of like really complex hair. So so it's interesting that
you handled that well, Michael.
So it was fascinating, like, to talk to them on a human level, but then so much to me right now of like what I'm focusing what I'm doing and where my energy is all about this, like escaping the matrix, and like what that means in terms of a very, very like practical way of like how we live and how that's creating different, like a different reality here on Earth. So when I get to talk to people who are doing like more or less what I'm describing, like nothing like real woo woo, like it's all changing. Like I think it changes like very naturally in these sort of ways, like how you live your life, how you understand time and all this sort of stuff. And when I was listening to them, talk about like where they are on their transition. And then specifically, like going back to your first question about like, what is the bobsled and what is that esoterically, like shooting down the hill, like so fast, like it's very different than skiing where you have a lot more control over what you're doing. And like that movement through and the thrill and the fear and the adrenaline of going that fast downhill, like that feels like what we're doing as well, which then ties up to like what you were talking about, the unusual alignment that happened on your birthday in the heavens and all this sort of stuff. So that's kind of like what the ways which I saw the that whole sort of experience and its deeper significance. And like the bobsled is more so about this like bullet. It's fun, but it's so fast down like the hill. And to your point with like the skiing, like you're creating a lot of movement with energy. And so it's different, but it's mostly about speed and like, all right, hold on, we're going down.
And what is he doing now? So they're not, are they still competing?
No.
Okay.
They both work in technology.
Okay.
And that what I was describing for her was what her kind of vision of maybe where she's going. Austin, I don't know where, if he told me, I forgot, but I know they both were thinking about how they're moving out. What was fun. So do you know what rope flow is?
Mm-mm.
So rope flow is this thing, and I'm usually not that impulsive, but I saw like this like ad for rope flow like a week or two ago, maybe a month ago. And I was like, I need to get that. I want to see what that is. That is speaking to me like really, really deeply. And I got it. And then like, I was like a little bit confused what to do and so forth. So I'm watching Austin. and he's doing. We took a sauna together, and then I'm watching him do these movements. I'm like, this is an Olympic athlete, and the dude's huge. And he was a very. They both were skilled track and field athletes before transitioning to bobsled, and so I recognize that they have like an uncommon relationship with their body and space and all this stuff. So I'm really zeroed into these movements. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, it looks like he's kind of shadow boxing. Like, I couldn't really tell, but it was really like it was unusual. So he's like, oh, well, I don't know if you ever heard of this thing called like rope flow. I'm like, I just got rope flow the other day. And so then he goes, he's like, well, I'm practicing those moves without the rope. And I'm like, well, I've got a rope right here. Will you show me what to do? So my guess is, I mean, that would be, he was able to articulate to me, like he was my Olympic trainer. Like I'm teasing myself because I got to have this sort of experience, but like, I don't know what he's doing, but I would certainly hope it would have to do with something along those lines of really like the rope flow is all about integration, like teaching the body, like really, really good integration in all of your movements, which translates to everything about having a body if you're going to move. And so I don't know what his plan is, but that would be, if I got to vote, I would say do something with that.
Okay, so there's three things I want to talk about, and let's go bobsled first, then rope flow, and then you said something about escaping the matrix, and I want to hit on all those things and maybe get into the Wimbledon talk in the second hour, because this is just the way these things are going. Okay, so Laura did pull up the history of bobsledding here for me.
Okay.
And so the sled was used as a mode of transportation for centuries. The bobsled as a game did not begin until the late 1900s. Swiss invented bobsledding in the late 1860s. So I guess not 1900s. I think it's the late 1800s, the 19th century is what they meant. Swiss invented bobsledding in the late 1860s. So again, we're at Switzerland, which is over and over, and all the things we talk about.
CERN.
Last speed game, Herman Hesse, CERN, Roger Federer, right? Like there's all.
Oh, today's the day they're supposed to be doing the CERN thing too.
Correct. CERN is getting
right now, like July 5th when we're recording.
Right. CERN is, well, they say they're turning CERN back on. I'm saying they were just preparing because they're aware that CERN will be turning itself on, right? Like
I'm still open to the fact that CERN doesn't exist. Like it's just like a really good story, which we've created in our minds. But nonetheless, whatever it is, today's the day which they're linking it to.
Right. Okay. So Swiss invented bobsledding in the late 1860s. Teams used to make timed runs down the twisting ice path using gravity power sleds. For the safety of wealthy tourists, chassis was attached to the bobsled. In 1890, chassis was attached to the bobsled. In 1897, the first bobsledding club was established in St. Moritz, Switzerland. I wonder how close that is to where CERN is.
I'm thinking the same thing. I'm looking right now. I'm pulling that up.
By 1914, the bobsledding races were occurring on a diverse range on a natural ice track. In 1923, the International Bobsleigh and Skeleton Federation, that sounds sleigh and skeleton, that's interesting words. Initially, Fédération Internationale de Bobsleigh et de Tobogganing was established the next year. A four-man race occurred at the primarily historically speaking Winter Olympic Games in Chamonix, France. A two-person occasion was included at the 1932 Olympics in Lake Placid, a configuration that has stayed to the present. Bobsledding was started as a hobby for the wealthy and bold people who assembled at Alpine hotels, Davos crew, for spending their weekends celebrating and participating in the competition. There was nothing of the sort as preparing. Competitors basically purchased or leased a bobsled, began as a rider, and afterward took the wheel after a couple of runs. Since the time of the creation of bobsledding, women have always been engaged in it, but women were not allowed to participate in the competitions. They were permitted to take part in two women bobsled competitions after the Winter Olympic Games in 2002. Nevertheless, there were women race demonstrations during the World Cup competition of bobsled in March 1983. So they're talking now about like the number of players in a bobsled game has been changed gradually from 5 or 6 to 2 and 4. Originally, the bobsled tracks were straight and all natural without refrigeration, whereas the modern bobsled tracks are built of concrete and are enfolded with ice. Gradually, rotation and spins were added into the new bobsled tracks over time. There have been a lot of changes made in the weight and material of bobsled over the years. The early bobsleds were made of wood, whereas the new sleighs are changed to fiberglass and metal to increase the speed of the sleds. More aerodynamic frames have been added. The history of bobsled displays how an uncomplicated and effortless game started with the purpose of entertainment can be developed into a marvelously fast sport. Many years of trial and error changed in the training, competition crew, and tracks of the game. This led to the foundation of the modern bobsledding game that we're familiar with. Okay, so it has a lot to do with gravity and then the mountains of Switzerland, right? Like the type of thing. And this idea that it was for the wealthy. So there's some similarities to tennis, right? Tennis started out, as a game, but I wonder about its history in terms of like, is there really more at play here? Like, why do these people find this activity important, right?
Can I show you this map real quick?
Yeah.
All right. So this here is St. Moritz. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yes, but I don't see your screen. I just see Mike Kwan has started screen sharing, but I don't see your actual screen.
I don't know why. Let me go back and stop.
There it is. There it is.
Now you can see it?
Yep.
Okay. So right here is St. Moritz.
Oh my God. And look at the way
right there's CERN. So what I think is, so this is how, when I go and figure out what to do, I just typed in St. Moritz and then I typed in CERN for the directions because I know they're going to pop it up on the map. That's like the quick way which I do it.
Right.
So it gives driving instructions.
Look where Davos is.
Where's Davos?
Right above St. Moritz.
Okay, right here. But look how this road, these are the options they gave you for the driving. Like they're mirrored. And then this is almost like this is like a brain. Like this is like if you're looking down at a human brain, and this is what, Laura, what's the thing that's called that separates the left and the right hemispheres? CC, like correct. Those are the initials. Like if you're looking down at the brain, this looks, is that what it is? Whatever it is, like that's what this looks like. Like you're looking down and this is like the left hemisphere and this is the right hemisphere, like how it just kind of is showing up like that. So what do we got? We've got, there's Davos. You're absolutely right. This, and I think your observation about the tennis, how this appeals to the same crowd. And when was it that Wimbledon began? What was the first Wimbledon?
When was the first?
How does that overlap with the first bobsled? Like I think they're like right around the same time. There's like late 1800s.
July 9th, 1877.
All right. And then what was the first bobsled? Like it's right around the same time. This is the same sort of like we're dealing with a very similar group of people, a very similar approach, like ways which they're having fun and games. What were you saying before? Like you described the bobsled as gravity. What were the other attributes?
Well, there like it was the gravity and the speed basically, and then the materials, and they've undergone the same change that tennis rackets have from wood to fiberglass and metal. Right.
I'm going to add courage. Like, I think in order to be a bobsledder, you've got to and particularly back then, think about the type of person who's like, yeah, I'll give this a shot. Like that requires a certain attitude, because I know there are a lot of people who are like, no, I ain't going to go down that. And so like that, I think is inherent into the sport as well, because that's a little bit different than tennis. Like, you're not going to be necessarily intimidated to pick up a tennis racket. You're not gonna be like, oh, maybe you're afraid you're going to get hit by the ball, but like, that's very different than going downhill. So I'm interested in doing this comparison when you're going down of like the different qualities.
Both of them were recreation for wealthy people that then became an intensely competitive sport that spread out amongst the world.
All right. So what does recreate mean? That's recreate. So let's go back to, so the people who controlled the world back then, that will be the way of the people with all of the material resources, assuming that there was like time and culture back then. I'm taking it on history on face value. And like people who could do whatever they wanted, they're like, how do we want to go and recreate? How do we get back into recreating? Okay, we could do this, we could do this. You know, you do the spa treatments, but then you do like the exhilaration, the body movements, all of these different sort of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like, well, it depends. So let's go back to your map for a second. Pull that map.
All right. All right. We had to get a map on here.
We have to. Yes, the Matterhorn is a requirement. All right. So first of all, we have the way you showed about the roads. It's like reflection, right? It's like, and it is like a brain, but it's also, it's exact, like it's, you know, this is essentially like a windy circle, right? So what I'm saying is that this is the particle accelerator that is going, like the original, the kind that F talks about, that it is that these are different activities. Look at this. Basel, that okay, hold on, stop. Basel is where Roger Federer is from. Okay. St. Moritz and Davos are right there. CERN is right there, right? And so, and then you have Milan here. I mean, this is quite a circle right here.
So Basel is the watch capital of the world.
Can you zoom in?
About time. This is time as well.
Yes, well, right. And Roger Federer, we've talked about this. Hermann Hesse is from Basel. Roger Federer is from Basel. I think that like Albert Hoffman or one of the main psychedelics.
Yes. With Sandoz Pharmaceutical. That happened in Basel. I believe you're right.
Can you scoot in?
Yeah.
Again. All right. So we have so let's just say, because your line goes straight down the middle, right? And according to FPV Angel, when you see a rainbow in the sky above, it's the evidence of what's happening underneath the ground. So that's on an above ground, below ground level, but this even is represented in the way it's laid out flatly. The amount of things that are important to the way our culture is going are here, right? We have Davos, we have Zurich, we have Basel, we have CERN, St. Moritz.
Okay. Milan in fashion, right? That place shop. This is the other place where this was where the first bobsledding competition or whatever it was over here, right? They started doing it here, and then there was a big thing over here. Everything is in here, right? Okay, so everything is in here. The Matterhorn, which is of course like the ride at Disneyland, that looks almost exactly like that game that you just had. Have you ever been on the Matterhorn at Disneyland? No, I have not.
Okay, pull that picture of the game you guys bought back up again. Also, the Rhone is there, the Rhone. So there's a river running right through it. Okay, so look at that. See that? The Winter Wonderland bobsled ride. Now look up Matterhorn.
Yeah, a little bit bigger. So we can see it right there. Yeah, it's got like this has a very different angle than that.
Yep. Now look up Matterhorn and pull up either end your share and I'll do it, or pull up Matterhorn Disneyland.
All right, why don't you pull that up?
I will pull that up. Here we go. All right, so let's do it right here. Matterhorn Disneyland. All right, let's pull it up.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know, right? So this is the Matterhorn Disneyland, right? And you basically are riding around in exactly the same, it's like a bobsled ride is basically what it is, right? And you're inside this thing, and this monster, there's a monster inside of it.
What type of monster?
It's like supposed to be like a Yeti or like some whatever type of thing, right? But this is basically a bobsled ride, the Matterhorn bobsled. So back to your map.
All right.
Look what's right in front of the Matterhorn at Disneyland. The circular, look, it's a circle. I forget what the name of that ride is, but it's that train that goes in a circle fast.
Okay.
Right, kind of thing. That looks like a circular particle accelerator. I don't know what the name of that ride is, but it's a circle that you're going around like the same way like a circular particle accelerator would.
Right.
And look, it's over the water and there's a reflection down below, just like all the things that we sort of talk about. Okay, so back to your map.
All right, there we go. So there's the Matterhorn right there. And here's the map.
Okay, so Matterhorn is here, right? That is
Okay.
in this circular area here. So that, right? So we have the Rhone Valley here, right? Look at this, Sion. There's a lot of interesting names. I could do a lot with a lot of the names that are in here. But this zone right here, this is like the energy ring, the energy circle, right? And the people want to experience that. So the crowd here at St. Moritz or Davos or whatever, like they're getting a charge, like the ability to, like the particle accelerators have to do with access to interdimensional realms. And think about what was going on in that Matterhorn thing. Like there's like all these layers and levels that are going down. It's almost like a ceremony or a ritual to like riding through the levels and the layers and the dimensions, or, you know, sort of into the underground or whatever it is. And there's this pool, big lake or pool of water here, you know, right where the CERN is, right? Just like there's this lake out here that we have tracks running around it like this. This is somehow you know, the other day it was raining at Wimbledon and there was all kinds of drama. And then when the rain was done, they showed this rainbow that was right over the center court at Wimbledon, right? So my guess is going to be that wherever some of the underground particle accelerator type activity is in England, in London, like Wimbledon probably sits right atop of it, right? And it, you know, the other connection between Wimbledon and Switzerland is the grass, right? Have you are you aware of like the whole thing about that people who are really healthy, or one of the healthiest groups of people are people who live in the Swiss Alps or around the Swiss Alps, around that area? Are you familiar with this idea? You know,
say that again. Say that again slowly. Am I aware of what idea?
Two of the two healthiest groups of people in the world are the people that live. There's an area in India, I think it's like near Nepal, right, where the pink Himalayan salt comes from.
Okay.
River, and the people who live the longest and are the healthiest live at the base of that, because the water comes down, gets all the minerals from the salt hill, and then creates like that water comes down, and that's the water that creates the grass. And then their goats and cows eat that grass and create the best grass-fed ghee and goat butter and all that kind of stuff. And the people eat that and they're super healthy. Same in Switzerland. Think about the relationship between like Swiss and dairy, right? But that's the Alps there, like the water comes down, the snow melts, it brings all those minerals down to the bottom. The grass grows, the cows that's the best grass-fed cow and animal kind of scenario there, right? But we don't. So of course, I think if I understand correctly, and this goes to not just the FPV, but also I think that his name is Jared Murphy, and he talks about like manufactured soil and all of this kind of stuff. I think he talks about it in a little different way, but it's the same idea. FPV Angel says these particle accelerators, the angels, these machines, they create nature. They generate what we think of as nature. And so the best minerals, the best stuff is there. And the people want to go there and they want to experience that. They want to eat that. They want to drink that, but they also want to feel that energy, right? That is creating vibrant nature. So they're taking their vacations there, their meetings there, whatever, and they're experiencing like the highest vibration, like, you know, and I'm sure they're vacationing, but they're also taking their meetings, right? They're like having the best, it's like when you go to like a cafe that has like really great, clean, organic food and you feel good and whatever, right? But it's this whatever's under the ground there, the particle accelerator, like CERN is probably what they say is CERN that they created, in my opinion, is just an outpost that they have built on something that has been there since the beginning of our understanding of time. And that's where they study it. Right? But that thing is much bigger and is not under their control. They're just building technologies and experiments on top of it. But all of that stuff, right? Do you know one of the things that they do with desktop linear particle accelerators is create pharmaceuticals? Sandoz Laboratory, right? Like this is the place where particle acceleration Like that's the religion there, is like anything that you can do in the sort of energy or the space of accelerated particles.
Right. So let me add to this mix.
Okay.
So do you remember that really like life affirming opening ceremony with like the goat head guy? Do you remember that? Know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, London's Olympics?
No.
Oh, which one?
It was for the tunnel.
Oh, yes. For the tunnel outside of CERN, yes.
Right. Well, it's not exactly outside of CERN, but it's in Switzerland. So let's go look at where that is. So this is where it's called the Goddard Base Tunnel Portal. This portal. Right in the middle. So this is where we find it, right there.
Yep.
Okay. So now, like, you know, when did they have their opening? The inauguration was June 1st, 2016. Mm-hmm. So we saw the date, which showed up at least on our bobsled on the date of birth, which seemed to be off by one. On our bobsled, bobsled queen, it was July 2nd. So, but we'll go July 1st. We could do either one because July 1st, July 2nd. So we do the day counter. I don't know what, you know, you take whatever you want from this. But you know, it's 22 days apart from the inauguration for us, like seeing this on the day, and we're having this conversation on the day which they're saying that CERN's going live again, like the most CERN energy in the history, like happening now.
Right. I would be fascinated to know if your friends have ever bobsled in St. Moritz or Davos.
We'll have to go and find out.
Right. Like this would be like super. I mean, my guess would be like that area has the most amount of tracks, like a lot of tracks. And I would love to know if there's a perceptible difference there for them than everywhere else. But that is a fascinating little area that we have just sort of uncovered there. And that the Sandoz part is really important as well, because psychedelics play into this. There is something like, what is it about elements, ice, grass, water, sand, particle accelerations, psychedelics, right? These whole, like, I think we're really getting down to like interaction at a molecular level, right? At an atomic level, like really small. And, you know, I was talking a couple of weeks ago about the Jeremy Narby book, right? About it, and it's been a big topic for things Laura and I have been experiencing, and same with I've been revisiting the Kalindi material and all of this kind of thing, and taking everything down to this like tiniest particle level, right? Like there is a 100% symmetry that is happening between what's going on at the most micro level and at the most macro level. And I think there are places that you can go where it is easier to understand the relationship between those two things. And people who go there to do their thinking, they're celebrating, they're creating, they're competing, and can really tune into that, are able to maximize their potential as human beings to sort of be the master of of each domain, right? And but it's not. That energy has something to do with it. Like that level of energy and vibration, right? Like opens things up. And if you understand what's happening and know what you're looking at, like you can have access to all information, like to all levels of information. But if you have no idea what's going on, you're like, oh, we're in Switzerland. It's cute. These houses are cute. Like, let's eat the food. Let's drink the beer. That's all part of the experience too. I'm not knocking that, right? But there's something else that's going on there besides just that it's beautiful, which is why these people return to these places at the same time of the year, year after year, over and over and over again, right? Think about what I have said about the tennis tour. Like they go to the same place every year at the same time, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so if you know that there's going to be like an opening, if you know, like, it's like people go to Iceland or Alaska to watch when the aurora borealis is coming, kind of thing, right? You can't see it the other times, right? So if there's a vibration happening somewhere at certain times of the year that allows this opening where you can kind of connect to every level in and out and retrieve information, right? Retrieve information and use that information to create whatever you're doing in the world, good, bad, or indifferent, right? Then you are at this like absolute advantage over everyone else who's just going to these places thinking they're pretty. And in fact, if they were to be there at the time when this is happening, they might find the feeling weird or overwhelming and want to leave. Like, oh, I have a strange feeling here. It feels evil. It feels dark. Like my body, people might have a heart attack or whatever, right? And they're not understanding why. And so places get, like, think about how many places the elite like to go that everybody else is like, I get a creepy feeling when I go here. Right?
Right.
And sometimes when I'm like having access to other levels of thought and other dimensions and whatever, like I feel strange in myself too. And if there wasn't this accompanying awareness of I'm actually experiencing something that is outside of my normal and there's information to be retrieved here, I might just go like, I feel weird, I want to go home, or this place is creepy, or I don't feel good or like it when I'm here, right? Or you go someplace and you feel really good and you're just like, I love Switzerland, it's beautiful here, I had such a good time, and have no awareness of like what's happening on a deeper level. Right? Like what are Swiss people known for besides watches and dairy products and skiing and chocolate and stuff? What are they known for? One word that describes the Switzerland or Swiss people.
Their neutrality.
Right. And so you have got to be able to like be neutral going into a situation, able to glean all of the information, right? Why is that a neutral zone? Because there's so much activity going on there that if you enter that space in anything other than a neutral place, like it's going to go crazy.
Right. And isn't Switzerland always said to be like the most, like their citizens are the most armed?
Their citizens are the most armed, and isn't the UN also in Switzerland?
The UN is, I
think the UN is in Geneva.
Well, Geneva is at least, is that where the World Court is? I'm not really certain. Now that we're saying this, I'm like, I don't really think I know the full organizational chart of UN, EU.
EU is in Brussels. The EU is in Brussels. The UN is in Geneva.
Okay, and
where's Geneva on that map?
All right, let's go see. I may have already moved off that map. Let me go see.
Switzerland joined the United Nations in 2002, the same time when the women were allowed to bobsled.
Did you hear that?
What?
Switzerland joined the UN in 2002, which was the same year that women were allowed to bobsled. In the Olympics. That's fascinating.
Yes, it is.
Right?
All right, where did I have that map? Let me see if I can find that elsewhere. All right, so Geneva, that's where CERN is, right?
So CERN is like, CERN is like in a small town. Like, where did that map go?
I'm pulling it up. Okay. But generally, like CERN is thought of as, CERN is what they show it as like, and I'm not certain what part of CERN because here, let me go show you. Let me screen share. So this is Geneva at the base of I guess that's Lake Geneva.
Yeah, okay, look at that. Dude, there's a city called Gland. Right there. Okay, so like I've been talking for forever, but there's been a conversation recently about controlling your endocrine system, right? As a way of like, you know, being able to stay neutral and balanced and everything that's going on. And there's literally a city right there on this called Gland. That's pretty fucking fascinating. Okay, so Gene,
and I'm not certain what organ, but I see this lake right here. It definitely has an organ, like I don't know what the pancreas looks like or anything, but like this shape, it definitely has it has some sort of biological, to me, like it resonates in
it looks like an organ or some kind of organ or something like that from the digestive system, right? It's into what we were talking about with those big dragons, right? Like this has been
right.
This has been a topic of conversation amongst Laura and I a lot lately about like, you know, systems and biology and understanding your own digestive system. And if we happen to be like living somehow on like the carcass of some very large being, then like the understanding of the way our own system works would go a long way to explaining like how what we're living on actually works. Or maybe it's not even a carcass. Maybe we're like living in some giant's body, right? Like who the fuck knows? Right. But okay, so is there something you want?
Oh no, well, I just was showing her. I didn't know if that was important or not.
Yeah, I think people. So she was just showing me about how important Switzerland is to like the Agenda 2030 and all of that kind of stuff, right? Like that's where things are sort of being dictated from. Okay, so we keep having a funny noise happening. So interesting.
Break now.
Well, let me just finish my thought, and then we'll.
Oh, okay.
So interestingly, so Wimbledon is happening here in London on the grass courts, right? And we're talking about Switzerland and what's going on there. Roger Federer he's not playing at Wimbledon this year, but he was just there as part of the 100th year of center court at Wimbledon. There was this very interesting ceremony on Sunday, and we'll get into some of that in the second part. But he has planned, he's training again. He's coming back from a third knee surgery and all kinds of crazy stuff. But there's 2 places he plans to compete this year, and then see, and then if things go well, then he'll play in 2023. Can you guess what the 2 places he's going to compete are?
Austin and Quarryville, Pennsylvania.
London and Basel.
All right.
Right. He's going to play at the Laver Cup in London, right? And he's going to play at the home tournament at Basel, right? And so just interestingly enough, so when we come back, I want to get into some of this stuff that I wanted to talk about related to Wimbledon. And I think some of this is going to tie in here, but that is quite the fascinating little circle, right? That we found there. I think we need to start thinking in terms of a lot larger machinery than maybe what people were considering.
Right.
Right. And that, we see it as being something that goes like this, or in some cases there's a linear particle accelerator that's straight, but that vibration opening up the kinds of levels and layers and realms that like sort of a diagram or a map of that would sort of be the bobsledding thing or the inside of the Matterhorn, right? Did you see on their game, there was like all these layers and levels, right? And it's related to speed and gravity and it's almost like a ritual or I don't know what the right word is. Like, it's like like the way that yoga movements are supposed to be poses that sort of help you like open up the different sort of realms to connect to God or whatever the story is behind that. This is almost like a version of that, right?
Okay.
Sort of like, I mean, it would be interesting to know if there's like further depth to some of these courses, right? That then go down further into the earth as opposed to just being like on top or whatever. I don't know. It's opening. We're having all kinds of weird sounds going here now. All right, let's do this. Let's take a break. We'll be back on the other side if you'd like to hear the rest of the conversation. Patreon.com/offplanetmedia, projectkids.locals.com, or rockfin.com/Emily Moyer. And if you love Project Kids and would like to hear Michael and I every week, we do 3 Black Glass Speed Game episodes a month as well. So you have a weekly show from us, and The information on how to join that is down below. We will see you on the other side.